The following is rated not safe for work. It contains strong language, adult situations, and lots of spoilers. Discretion is advised.
In the criminal justice system, cinematic-based offenses are considered especially heinous. The dedicated attorneys who investigate these villainous films are members of an elite squad known as the Reels of Justice. These are their stories.
Order, please, order. The Reels of Justice is now in session. Judge Big Ben Haslar is presiding. Will you all rise for the Honorable Judge Haslar? Be seated. Welcome to the Reels of Justice. Today we are hearing the case of the People versus U.S. Marshals, a 1998 spin-off of The Fugitive, about U.S. Marshal Sam Gerard, who must pursue an escaped fugitive wanted for murder of 2 CIA agents. For those of you unfamiliar with our court proceedings, we are here to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. As always in this courtroom, films are to be considered excellent until proven awful, and the burden of proof lies upon the prosecution to prove beyond the shadow of a reasonable doubt that this film is guilty. Mr. Maynard Bangs, you are appearing on behalf of the prosecution. You may begin your opening statement.
Listen up, ladies and gentlemen. Our movie has been on the run for 131 minutes. Average plot speed over flat character development, barring Joe Pantoliano, is 4 yawns an hour for a radius of 6 total nodding offs. It is currently wanted for the direct lifting of plot points and story beats from 1993's The Fugitive, and is to be considered armed with no original ideas of its own and extremely dangerous. What I want out of each and every one of you is a hard target search of every streaming service, torrent site, DVD outlet, dollar store bargain bin, on the brink of foreclosure video store, and Uncle Steve's old VHS collection in this area. Our fugitive's name is U.S. Marshals. Go get it.
I don't know, sir. That sounds like a lot of work on my part. What do you got, Mr. Keller?
Okay. Look, U.S. Marshals, I'm not exactly sure what I'm supposed to be defending here. I feel like this is a pretty self-evidently entertaining movie. I think it's less hated even perhaps than it is just sort of generally forgotten or dismissed by virtue of being a sequel to an admittedly spectacular movie. I'm not here to try and convince you that U.S. Marshals is better than The Fugitive. That would be a fool's errand. The Fugitive was nominated for Best Picture. Tommy Lee Jones won an Oscar for it. It's one of the all-time great thriller action movies. I think taken on its own merits, U.S. Marshals is a completely fun movie that more than proves its worth over its running time. It has several great set pieces. It has a couple of really, really fun performances. And I think that it's a totally good time. I defy anybody to sit down without any bias or preconceptions and not have a smile on their face from the time Tommy Lee Jones pulls out a Glock in a chicken suit to the end of the movie where Wesley Snipes for the 4th time says that he feels righteous. So that's where I'm coming from on this. I am not the burden of proof is not to prove that it is better than The Fugitive, which I feel is what it gets knocked for, not being as good as one of the best movies ever. I am going to try and prove that taken on its own, it is a totally solid B+ action movie that is worthy of revisiting and being spoken about with the great 90s action movies.
You know, I'm glad I'm not the only one who just starts counting righteous to see like which movies have the higher count. I'm glad you're with me, sir. Mr. Maynard Bangs, you may present the first exhibit.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would like to point out that one of the reasons this film is on trial is it's currently sitting at a 25% critic
Holy
score
shit.
on Rotten Tomatoes. 53% audience, but that's not all
That's
the way
terrible.
great. It is terrible. And so when you pitched this film and I looked it up, I went, oh, well, this is something in our wheelhouse. This is something we're either going to bury completely or we're going to redeem. And my plan is to bury it completely. This film, Your Honor, is of course a spin-off of the widely popular movie The Fugitive. Tommy Lee Jones returns to reprise his role as Senior Deputy U.S. Marshal Sam Gerard, and his cadre of comic relief reinforcements return with him, including Joe Pantoliano as Cosmo Renfro, Daniel Roebuck as Hungry Bobby Biggs, and Tom Wood as the rookie with the rookiest name ever, Noah Newman, or Newman. Unfortunately, I guess they couldn't get L. Scott Caldwell to return as Erin Poole, but that's okay because they replaced her with LaTanya Richardson as Savannah Cooper and just hoped we wouldn't notice the difference. But we did. That's a different actress, and nobody mentions it at all. Now, U.S. Marshals borrows several plot points from The Fugitive. Now, I agree if this had, just comparing it to the original is unfair, but this film puts itself in that position. One of the things it does is to remind us that it is a sequel of The Fugitive. That's why we have that big zoom in moment on Tommy Lee Jones as he says, "We got a fugitive." Ooh, oh, did you hear that? We got
That's
a
your trailer moment
fugitive.
there.
Wow. And Tommy Lee Jones is going to pursue him just like he did in that other movie, The Fugitive. Remember that? So once again, we have a wrongfully accused man. This time we got Mark Sheridan, played by Wesley Snipes, who first appears as a tow truck driver, maybe in a sad case of mistaken identity, but it actually turns out he's a burned kite for the CIA who is wanted for murder of two of his fellow agents. Of course, eventually we find out, again, he didn't do it. It's been set up just like Dr. Richard Kimball in The Fugitive. And then once again, our fugitive escapes during an accident during a prisoner transport. In this case, it's an airplane full of passengers which crashes after a failed assassination attempt on Wesley Snipes. We had a better movie about an airplane full of prisoners just the previous year. It was called Con Air. Now, again, just like Dr. Richard Kimball, he assists who assisted an injured guard in his escape. Wesley Snipes shows he's an okay guy by helping Tommy Lee Jones rescue some other prisoners by holding a flashlight. You see, he's not a bad guy. He held a flashlight, damn it. He's good. Once again, Tommy Lee Jones makes a big speech about creating a perimeter and checking out every, quote, house, hotel, hospital, back road, and backwater in what is just like one of the saddest apings of the speech he gave in The Fugitive. The manhunt ensues, which again, with shots that look just like they did in The Fugitive, dogs sniffing through trees and perimeter lines scouring the country. And then the cherry on top, Tommy Lee Jones corners Sheridan on a rooftop, giving him nowhere to run, right? The chase is over. He's got his man. But lo and behold, Sheridan makes a daring leap to escape using a pulley system to swing down on the roof of a speeding train. Hot damn, it was almost as cool as that time when Tommy Lee Jones cornered Dr. Richard Kimball in that water pipe and Kimball had to make a daring leap into the waterfall below to escape. Almost as cool.
Almost. Mr. Keller, does this leech too much off of its predecessor?
Your Honor, I'm just sitting here flabbergasted to discover that apparently the prosecution has just become aware of the concept of a sequel within the last day or so. I mean, it's a sequel. I don't know. There are certain expectations coming into a sequel, especially if it is about people. These are U.S. Marshals. They're the way that they conduct their business. There's going to be certain things that are the same, and even on a craven Hollywood, we want to play to the audience level. The people would have revolted if Tommy Lee Jones didn't do a version of his Oscar-winning Hard Target speech. I mean, with a sequel, you have to come in from a point of acceptance that some of these things are going to happen. And I will say the befuddled sheriff in U.S. Marshals is played by Tracy Letts, terrific playwright and character actor Tracy Letts. And it's always a delight to see him show up. And I will say, for all of the things that this movie does borrow from The Fugitive, I find that in every single instance, I am delighted by the way that they spin it. They often elevate it in some way. I would say that Sheridan's escape is perhaps less dramatic than the waterfall jump from The Fugitive, but it provides a fun moment where he lands on the train and does his little grin, his little wave, and their relationship is very different in this movie than Gerard's relationship to Richard Kimball in The Fugitive, even though they are both on some level wrongfully accused. But I will say the airplane crash just on its own as a technical piece is thrilling and very well executed and big. When they do the stunts are fantastic. In the end credits of this thing, the list of stunt players is about 200 people long. They really pulled out all of the stops for this movie and really did want it. It makes The Fugitive look almost quiet and contemplative by comparison. Maybe not in its pacing. This is, I will grant you, a little bit less tight of a movie.
Sloggier.
But the set pieces are absolutely spectacular. The scale is scaled up in a way that I think is appropriate for a sequel. They knew they were not going to match The Fugitive, so that they decided to do was give you more Gerard, give you another wrongfully accused man, but not an everyman. This is not a parallel narrative of the Mad Dog U.S. Marshal who always gets his man, and a average Joe, wealthy physician, but an average guy on the run trying to solve a crime. It is what happens when Sam Gerard comes up against an international espionage plot, which is adding almost a whole new subgenre into this series, and I think it works. It works just fine.
I'd like to say if we are going to do a sequel, I understand. Of course, he still needs to be a U.S. Marshal. I don't want to see retired Sam Gerard and what he's doing. But the fact that it's once again, a wrongfully accused fugitive. I mean, surely the U.S. Marshals must pursue individuals who are actually guilty, right? Why not?
Well, they must, but who wants to see that story? We need a second lead. We need a second lead that we can invest in and follow in that parallel way. And look, This is the thing. This is the thing with this movie. You can CinemaSins it all you want and say, don't they ever chase someone who actually did it? But it is a proven formula that the audience gets invested when you've got two people on opposite sides who are both, as Mr. Sheridan likes to say, righteous. And either you're going to buy into that or you are, or you're not. And I buy into it. I am fine with that. I am enjoying that this movie is a little bit more of that fugitive flavor, with more action, with bigger set pieces, with more comedy. It's a little bit less dark, which makes it go down a little smoother as sort of an afternoon, throw it on cable action movie. There is not the dead wife angle. There's not the crying and all that stuff that The Fugitive has in it. And look, I stop me when you want to stop me. Or when I need to go to the next part of my argument. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to, I'll kind of move on to my point. Is this is definitely different than The Fugitive. I don't know if it's less dark necessarily. I mean, there's international espionage in this case. Before it was, a plot to try to cover up, drugs.
Well, I would say opening objection. I would say, okay, did I do that right? Objection. Yes, I would say that opening the movie with a Lynchian montage of Celia Ward getting brutally bludgeoned to death inherently makes this movie less dark than The Fugitive.
No, it opens with gritty surveillance footage of two men being gunned down.
Some spies getting shot. Who cares? The
three kids
has a darker undertone.
One of them had 3 kids. Robert Downey Jr. told us. Which brings me to this movie has Robert Downey Jr. in it, who is at the height of his problems with drugs and the law.
I think he was in between rehab stints.
Sure, but this is still around the same time he said he didn't care if he ever acted again. And as Robert Downey Jr., is the bad guy from the moment you see him clumsily step off the helicopter. And
Sure.
it doesn't help that he and his co-conspirator repeatedly exchange guilty expressions in the back of the room. Like they're constantly, the camera constantly goes on close-ups. I mean, they might as well have Robert Downey Jr. like mopping his brow, sweating, and loosening his tie and shifting his eyes left to right. Like, he was so cartoonishly guilty looking throughout the whole time that there's really no mystery to figure out here. You're just waiting for when is Tommy Lee Jones going to get the clue and figure out that Robert Downey Jr. is the one behind all of this. And speaking of obvious, too, rookie Noah Newman, played by Tom Wood, a.k.a. Judge Reinhold from Wish.com, is so obviously going to die from the moment we meet him. Like, from the moment Tommy Lee Jones asks for a glass of milk for the kid, as he affectionately refers to him, we know the kid is 100% dead meat from the start. So there's no shock.
Well, nobody died in The Fugitive. There wasn't really precedent for
someone died in The Fugitive.
Yeah.
Well, someone dies in The Fugitive, but no one on the team got killed in The Fugitive, so there wasn't really precedent for that.
Well, we don't know what happened to Erin Poole, L. Scott Caldwell's character.
Could have been off screen. Yeah,
she completely disappeared. But something bad happened to her, for sure. But yeah, to me, the plot in this, in The Fugitive, the character of Gerard is, I think, a little bit more straightforward, right? He's a supporting character, obviously. He's not the protagonist like he is here, so it's sort of easier to forgive him for being a flat character. The character is flat. What do we know about Sam Gerard? He's a U.S. Marshal. He's humorless. He pursues his target until it's acquired. What do we know about?
Doesn't care.
What do we know about his personal life? Basically nothing. He has a girlfriend because we see her for exactly 90 seconds. And then
he has a hot date, is what he has.
I
don't think
agreed.
She's his girlfriend. There's the implied romantic past with his boss, and I would say objection on the humorless. The character is a very serious man, but Tommy Lee Jones does not play him without humor. Tommy Lee Jones is having a blast in this movie.
Tommy Lee Jones is not humorless. Tommy Lee Jones is not humorless, but Sam Gerard is. Like, he's not.
No, Sam Gerard's saying don't make fun of your ponytail and things like that.
Sam Gerard has some jokes in this movie.
He means it. I mean, he wears that chicken suit in earnest, not because it's funny, it's funny or anything. Like,
this argument,
original or extra crispy.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. This argument should honestly start and end with that opening scene with them and him in the chicken suit, which is one of the best things ever committed to film, and I feel like makes the rest of this discussion redundant, but continue.
Well, those opening scenes are actually kind of jarring compared to the rest, because, yeah, he is a little lighthearted in that. They have a scene where the team is trying to capture one of the bad guys, and it's set to the background of 1998 era WCW, which is playing on the TV. And a lot of the fighting they're doing syncs up to the wrestling commentators on TV, which...
Great stuff.
I mean, I enjoy being a wrestling fan, but it's certainly lighthearted and kind of clashes to the rest of where the film is going to go, which, again, doesn't have all that much humor. It doesn't necessarily need to. But, besides Joe Pantoliano making jokes here and there, it's relatively straightforward.
You don't think that Sheridan's, you don't think that his cemetery disguise has some humor to it?
A fugitive named Sweetback, maybe, but yeah, he definitely did look like a pimp, and it did have a lot of panache and personality. I don't know how inconspicuous it would be. Now, that's a guy you notice.
He looks great.
At least they didn't go with zombies, right?
Yeah, but my point is,
maybe he's not trying to be inconspicuous.
He should. He's a wanton man.
He's trying to blow this thing wide open.
But my point is that I think Gerard isn't developed much more in this film than he was in The Fugitive, and this time he's got to play the protagonist. He doesn't get to hide as the foil behind Kimball like he did. He's really the one that we're focused on and follow through most of the film. And I think that, the character is sort of contradictory to what it was in The Fugitive. If you remember in The Fugitive, Kimball and Gerard share a conversation over the phone. And Kimball reminds him of their prior conversation where Gerard tells him he doesn't care if he killed his wife or not. And Gerard says, yeah, that's right, Richard. I don't care. I'm not trying to solve a puzzle here. But where was that Sam Gerard during U.S. Marshals? Because he's absolutely trying to solve the puzzle of who set up Mark Sheridan. He reviews surveillance tape at the time of the supposed murder. He finds prints were planted. Where is the guy who's just supposed to mindlessly hunt down his quarry and capture him because that's his sole job?
Wait, now you're hold the phone. Objection. Now you're complaining that it stops aping the fugitive? This is an inconsistent argument. He develops over the course of The Fugitive. The whole point of that movie is he doesn't care, and then by the end he cares, and he's trying to figure it out. He is a changed Gerard who has a little bit more of an analytical, suspicious eye in this movie.
I'm going to sustain that argument. The arc in The Fugitive makes sense as to the progression in the U.S. Marshals.
Okay, that's fair.
Counselor,
And my final
do you have
argument.
any further arguments?
Yeah, my final argument is that this was directed by Stuart Baird, who also directed Nemesis. So you already know that he's in comedy.
Sustained. Oh, wait, that wasn't an objection. Sorry.
But with that, I rest my case.
All right. Thank you, Counselor. Mr. Keller, you may present your exhibits.
Look, I am happy to segue off of Stuart Baird. The point of him directing Star Trek Nemesis conveniently leaves out. Look, you're not going to get. I'm not going to try and argue any losing points here. I'm not going to try and argue that Star Trek Nemesis is a great movie. I did not propose.
We already found it guilty.
It's already
did not
been done.
propose that title. You conveniently leave out in listing Stuart Baird's past filmography that ended at Star Trek Nemesis that he also directed Executive Decision, which is another terrific mid-90s action movie. And this man, and this goes to my point, which I think that the action set pieces in this movie, and I'll go into a little bit more detail about this, are really, really well staged. This guy has a natural sense for spacing, a natural sense for how to move the characters around, where to put the camera, what depth of lens to use to really build a suspense sequence that bursts into an action sequence. And he learned from the fucking best. This guy, Stuart Baird, is the editor of Skyfall, the editor of Superman, Richard Donner's Superman, the editor of Casino Royale, the editor of Salt, which actually is probably another possible title for this
Your
podcast.
Honor, the prosecution doesn't challenge Stuart Baird's editing credibility.
Edited Demolition Man, The Last Boy Scout. I mean, Lethal Weapon. This guy is a fucking action legend, and he knows.
Okay, sir, I'll allow you two more.
He knows how. There's that many. It is
a lot.
There's so many that it's preposterous. He has proven bona fides in this, and all that to say, I will give you that over the course of the entire movie, there are 2 or 3 parts of this movie where the energy, I don't want to say dips, but the nonstop propulsion of the fugitive gives it, there's more breathers in this movie. But I will point out, again, we already talked about how great that opening scene is. The escape scene. I think that the final fight on that shipping boat in that cavernous shipping container where they're getting like corn dumped on them, that is absolutely thrilling. But my favorite scene in this movie is the scene in which Newman gets killed when they are chasing Sheridan on foot, and he goes into this like extended living retirement home that is cramped and dirty and feels very authentic and very New York. And they're going, him and Robert Downey Jr. are pursuing Sheridan through, and they're checking rooms and everything about the way that this is laid out, the way it is paced, edited, performed. It's honestly one of my favorite scenes like this in a movie. And it builds to this kind of reveal, but as the prosecution pointed out, kind of not reveal that Robert Downey Jr. is a bad guy. And I don't think, to rebut that point, I do not think that is a bad thing in this movie. I don't necessarily think the movie thinks it is tricking you into thinking that sweaty, going through withdrawals Robert Downey Jr. is a good guy. I think it is the Alfred Hitchcock thing of seeing where the bomb is put before the scene starts is way more exciting than the shock of the bomb going off and never knowing it was there. I think that this is not playing towards a twist. This is playing towards the dramatic irony that the audience knows there's something up with Robert Downey Jr. and how is he going to fuck with our beloved team of U.S. Marshals as this pursuit goes forward. So I actually don't find that to be a problem, the obviousness of his villainy a problem really at all. And it's another thing that is different than The Fugitive. You know, our U.S. Marshals are the protagonists now, as you pointed out. So there needs to be more drama and more conflict within that unit. And that's what Robert Downey Jr. provides. And I think he does it well. And I think he is a good sparring partner for Tommy Lee Jones as Sam Gerard. And I think they give Sam Gerard just enough extra backstory and personality. He still needs to be this sort of monolithic, intractable character. I mean, he's Sam Gerard. I don't want to get a psychological profile on him. I don't want to go to his home. You know, he is still this like larger than life guy, and it builds to some of my favorite dialogue in either of these movies. And again, I don't want to compare this movie to The Fugitive, but when he is going off, when he is angry, and he still isn't sure what Sheridan's deal is, but he is sure that he's pissed off that the government, this you know, black site spy shit, has been lying to him. Him who is so focused on the truth and being no BS, he's just angry at this point. And he still thinks that Sheridan might have killed Newman. He is going, and he has lost all. He's seeing red. He's lost all objectivity. And Pantoliano, who you already gave an exception to, Mr. Prosecution up top, says the great Sam Gerard. And when Tommy Jones says, "Yes, I am," he says, "You always have to get your man." Yes, I do. That's just delicious. That's just delicious movie dialogue. That is not trying to be, high-minded. It is trying to entertain, and it is great. It turns this character into a myth, which is fantastic. I honestly knew I liked this movie. I had seen it. Yeah, I had the VHS tape. I had the DVD. I grew up watching this movie. The Fugitive is one of my favorite movies of all time. But if you just want some of that Fugitive flavor, and you've seen The Fugitive 75 times, this is a really, really fun way that gives you some of that flavor, but it changes it in just enough ways that it's its own thing, and it amps up the action if you're more of a just watch people chase and shoot and blow up kind of mode. And
it's the Fugitive light.
Yeah, it's Diet Fugitive, or it's the Kroger brand Fugitive.
As a big fan of Coke Zero, again, I don't see what the problem is with that. That is not an inherent evil. I will also say, love the James Newton Howard score in this movie. It ranks up there with like the LA Confidential score as one of my favorite action scores in that decade.
Mr. Prosecutor, would you care to rebut any of these points?
I did not find the fight on the boat all that thrilling because I don't know who that guy Wesley Snipes was fighting, but it wasn't Tommy Lee Jones. I mean, could they have gotten a better looking stuntman or anything? Because I was like, who's that guy?
Objection. We're nitpicking stuntmen.
Oh, we picked to the nittiest here in this movie.
Yeah, we picked to the nittiest, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I don't have any rebuts.
Before people get mad at me, it was not James Newton Howard. It was Jerry Goldsmith composed this.
They're already mad.
Then. Too late. I'm mad.
And I will say, it reminds me of his LA Confidential score because he also did LA Confidential. So anyway,
If you can't copy off yourself, who can you copy off of, right?
Exactly.
Did you have any further exhibits?
I already listed Stuart Baird's editing credits, right?
Oh, yes.
One thing you know what I did not mention? Wesley Snipes, also good in this movie. All of the U.S. Marshals are fun. Again, I'd love to see another movie with them. It's the only thing I've ever liked Daniel Roebuck in. He was born to play his character in this movie.
He just eats a couple times. Objection, Your
Honor.
Him in
Lost?
It's not a character. He didn't even know
I was born to play.
He didn't even know they were making a movie.
I like Biggs. Wesley Snipes is good in this movie. He's not going to be as great as Harrison Ford because, again, this movie's telling us a different story. It's not about necessarily as much of his it's not about a guy who is trying to stay one step ahead of the cops while working through this deep trauma and solve this mystery. He is trying to get back. It is spycraft. It is Sam Gerard brushing up against spycraft, which is a totally different kind of story. There's more
objection, Your Honor.
Enemy of the state to this.
This movie is exactly about a man trying to stay one step in front of the police while he tries to solve a mystery. That's exactly what it's about.
He's trying to solve a mystery, but again, he's not the mystery.
He's not
of,
an everyman.
His wife's murder.
He
was already trying to stay under the radar. He opens the movie as a fugitive, which is a very
I'm going to overrule that objection just because the character of Wesley Snipes, like, you don't necessarily know that he didn't do it from the beginning, like you kind of knew Harrison Ford didn't from the beginning. So that on its own sort of tells a different story.
It is a different story. I will also say, stray thoughts. These guys are from the Diplomatic Security Service, which I didn't realize was real. I thought that was made up for Fast Five and The Rock. So in some universe, the Hobbs from the Fast and Furious movies was perhaps a colleague of Robert Downey Jr.'s in this movie. Yes, he would have been a rookie, I suppose.
We don't need any more cinematic universes. We don't.
Sustained.
Actually, if the U.S. Marshals showed up in the Fast universe, I might be okay with that.
That's true. That's
Right?
true. I'll
Right?
overrule my own
The
objection.
crossover we didn't know we needed.
But let's keep
now that
Daniel
The Rock-
Roebuck out of it.
Daniel Roebuck needs to eat.
I think he's done enough eating for the rest of his life.
But now that the Rock is not going to be in the Fast and Furious movies, perhaps Vin Diesel can give some acting pointers to Tommy Lee Jones.
I am Groot.
My only other point is that this movie does something that I find so charming about Hollywood movies in general, but really in the 90s, which was taking European actresses from critically acclaimed movies who won like César Awards or whatever, and then making them the like 8th billed wife character in a Hollywood movie. And Irene Jacob from The Double Life of Veronique and Kieslowski's Red is the girlfriend who has 30 lines in this movie. And I think she does a great job. I'm a big Irene Jacob fan. So I guess that's not like a thrilling point to go out on my exhibits, but
You're resting on Irene?
I'm going to rest on Irene Jacob. Yes.
I'd like to use that point in favor of the prosecution. They took an actress who was burning up over there in Europe and won Czar Awards and crap, and they gave her 30 lines. How disrespectful.
All right. Well, very well. Both sides have rested their cases. The attorneys will now present their closing arguments. Mr. Bangs, you may begin.
U.S. Marshals, there's no way out of here. The entire courtroom is locked down. Give it up. You don't have any time. The Reels of Justice thinks you're a bad movie. They will shoot you on sight. U.S. Marshals, I know you're guilty. I know about how you repurposed every story beat from The Fugitive for your own benefit. I know about the wrongfully accused man plot, the accident while in transit that frees him, the Tommy Lee Jones speech, and the daring plunge the fugitive makes to elude his inevitable capture. I know it all. I'm either lying or I'm going to shoot you. What do you think? Give it up, U.S. Marshals. It's time to stop running.
I think he's going to shoot him. Mr. Keller, you may present your closing argument.
Wow. My closing argument is this. It is a mirror of my opening argument, which I'm sure the prosecution will have all kinds of problems with. I'm going to ape everything I said from the opening argument.
He's not allowed to talk now.
Terrible sequel.
I will say again, if we're going to hold every sequel to the standard of being wholly different from the film it succeeds in every single way, then that's a logical fallacy that if you can't get past that, I don't know what to do for you. But I don't think that has anything to do with U.S. Marshals. That is just a grander problem that needs to be interrogated. I think by the standard of a spin-off / sequel, U.S. Marshals more than makes the case for its existence by being bigger, by being focused on Tommy Lee Jones and giving us more time with him, more time for Tommy Lee to explore the character, more moments of humor, more moments of backstory, but not so much that it overburdens the thrust of the movie, which is another great fugitive being chased by a cop picture. That is a genre. That's a genre in and to itself. There aren't enough of them for my money. And if we are gonna get a bunch of money to put a bunch of fun actors in a movie in this genre, if it has to, call back to some stuff from The Fugitive now and then, I say so be it. I think this movie has some spectacular set pieces. I think Stuart Baird does a great job directing. Star Trek Nemesis should not have put him in movie jail for the rest of forever. Maybe he prefers
Did you just
editing.
say I think he does a great job of directing Star Trek Nemesis?
No.
I said I think he does a great job of directing, period. Star Trek Nemesis should
There
not
we
have
go.
put him in director jail forever. Perhaps he prefers editing. I don't know. But I would love to see, he's old now, but I love seeing people like Tommy Lee Jones as the leads of action movies. Every action movie now is some guy. It's some guy that's hyper fucking jacked, that is super hot. Like, I love watching a movie where a cranky guy in his early 60s is bitching at people and running around. He looks great holding a gun. I totally buy Tommy Lee Jones in this type of part, and it's just a joy to watch it. I think there's enough really fun scenes and enough good stuff in this movie to make it worth recommending on its own. I think for fans of The Fugitive, it should be a fun revisit with a great character and a tone and a universe shared with that movie, sort of a more grounded action movie. It's not full of bells and whistles. It's a really sturdy, grounded, within reason action picture. And I also like, I also like that it is PG-13. It kind of straddles. It's pretty violent. It's on the way to an R, but I think it's also a good thing that teens can watch and get some of that elevated action vibe from. I know that's how I used it when I was a kid. I was grateful to have some stuff like that. So I think U.S. Marshals earns its place in the pantheon of 90s action movies. And unless you insist on comparing it directly with The Fugitive, which again I think is a fallacy, it is a good time at the movies, and I will continue to recommend it to people. I say not guilty.
Thank you both. Members of the jury, Mr. Dylan J. Schlender, Mr. Big Ben Haslar, and Mr. I don't care, Ryan Luis Rodriguez. You have all heard the facts concerning this case. It is now up to you to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. The bailiff will escort you to the deliberation room to render your verdict. I didn't murder my wife! Oh, sorry, thought you were someone else. Jury room's right that way.
Jesus, bailiff.
Yeah, these nicknames are getting lazier, I swear to God.
Well, you hated the mean ones. What do you want from us?
Oh, yeah, geez, I hate mean nicknames. God, yeah, that's totally on brand. Wow.
I don't know, I kind of liked I don't care, but...
It's better than pissing in a wedding dress, I guess.
It is.
Subjective. Subjective.
What are we thinking, guys? Dylan?
All right, well, I definitely like the passion that Clay brought to the case. I have to take umbrage. I just think Maynard has the better of it with the aping of the fugitive thing. Now, I get what Clay's saying. Like, you have to kind of take the movie, because on one hand, he's saying take the movie on its own. And then on the other hand, he's saying, oh, but these homages to the fugitive are really nice. And like Maynard said, U.S. Marshals invites that comparison very, very deliberately. I mean, it really forces you to think about it, and in a way that's kind of off-putting. That reminded me a bit of like Terminator 3, making all the callbacks to Terminator 2, or even like going even further down the list, something like Grizzly just trying to be incredibly redolent of Jaws. And I think when the movie puts itself out there doing that, I think that's fair game to knock it and compare it to The Fugitive, where obviously it falls very short. But does that make it bad? Big Ben, over to you.
I don't know that it necessarily makes it bad. If this is like, a Diet Coke version of The Fugitive, and I think that really is a pretty apt comparison. Diet Coke isn't bad. It's just not terribly good. I did like the different ways that they went with it. I mean, I did like that I didn't necessarily know that Wesley Snipes was innocent the whole time. It gets that way sort of in the mid, but in the beginning of The Fugitive, we know right from the outset Harrison Ford's innocent. So that on its own, I kind of liked that different trajectory they went with it. Beyond that, though, there's not that much that's new that like really brings me into it in the way that it brings Mr. Keller into it. I did like, I remember watching this the first time, and it was like kind of the first time I saw like an interracial couple. And that sort of wowed me at the time. And obviously there've been like examples of that before this chronologically, like we've done the Omega Man. But that was like the first time I saw it. It was like, oh yeah, that's kind of interesting. And it made me think about that. So that's,
when did you see it?
I think is,
I was going to say, where the hell have you been, Ben?
I didn't watch those 70s movies like the Omega Man. And I don't know that there's a lot of that representation in the 90s. Am I wrong?
No.
I mean, what about real life?
I was being genuine because this was actually the movie that I saw for my 12th birthday party. And it was a sequel to a movie that I was not allowed to see. So I don't know why exactly I was excited as a 12-year-old to see U.S. Marshals, but I guess being in a movie theater was such a unique experience that I would take anything I could get. But I was pumped when this movie came out. And even though anytime we got a fugitive, I just like, yes, you do. Yes, you do. I had no idea that it was referencing anything.
Oh, man. And you know what, too? I will say, Tommy Lee Jones did get into very good shape for this. I mean, he has like 2 shirtless scenes, He's in great shape. But I don't know why they used...
At the age of 40, he does look great.
Yeah, I know, but the stunt double in the ship fight is so bad. It's all the action in this movie is really kinetic and up close, except when the 2 main characters have to fight. That's when they zoom out, and like the guy doesn't look anything like him. It's so bad. That really pulled me out of it. It was just such a tonal shift. It's such a bizarre directorial decision. But again, this is Stuart Baird we're talking about, so I guess we can't be that surprised.
I watched it on my phone on that same trip I did the Rocky and Bullwinkle one, and like even on that small screen, I was like, yeah, that's not Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, again, he was in great shape. He was clearly doing a couple of the stunts, like he was running around and doing stuff. Like, are we supposed to believe Tommy Lee Jones can't do a choreographed fight with a trained fighter like Wesley Snipes? That was just
what they say. Always bet on black.
We CGI'd Christopher Lee's face onto Count Dooku like a couple of years later, right? We can do that.
Maybe. I don't know. There's a lot of this movie that, for me personally, a lot of it just didn't work. It got kind of sloggy. The conspiracy wasn't that interesting, and Wesley Snipes commits a lot of attempted murder for an innocent man. He's like, I didn't kill anyone, and I'll murder everyone to prove it. I mean, he literally shoots Tommy Lee Jones. That could kill him. I mean, like...
he says, I'm sorry I shot you in the vest, doesn't he?
Oh, I mean, well, okay, yeah, but what if Tommy Lee Jones slipped while that was happening? I mean, like, you're shooting a gun. There's no safe way to shoot a gun at someone. That's why guns are awesome.
Well, then why do they have safeties, Dylan?
But you don't shoot them if the safety's on,
okay,
Ryan.
So I don't know about guns, Dylan.
Yes, why don't you just stay in California, Ryan?
Why don't you just go get a taser, guys?
Anywho, I think we should probably start locking in some verdicts. What do you guys think?
Yeah, let's do it. So I didn't care for this movie because I'm no longer 12, but I don't judge these movies anymore based on whether or not I like them. I judge them based on the case. And for a movie that I didn't really like, I got to admit that the defense had an answer to practically every single thing that was raised by the prosecution.
Yeah, he did. He did.
That's needed in these kind of cases. And even if there are things that I didn't particularly like about the movie, the fact that they were raised and I had to immediately go, well, yeah, I guess you had a point there. So I'm waffling back and forth between innocent and guilty. Ben, what are you thinking?
I also don't care for the movie. I wouldn't say I hate it, but I also agree that just because it's light doesn't make it's bad. So it's in my mind not guilty. If you like it, God bless you. Have fun. Watch The Fugitive Light.
Dylan?
We've done a lot worse movies on this, but I think the movie invites in too much and under-delivers. I'm going guilty.
All right, not guilty.
All right, there we go. Well, shouldn't we go tell that handsome judge, Ryan, or do you want me to tell you more about how guns work?
What are you supposed to say about that?
Am I the foreman?
No.
Am I the foreman? I thought you were the foreman.
Handsome judge. Don't you fight me.
No,
on this, Dylan.
maybe.
No one wants to admit that judge is handsome.
Let's go talk to the handsome judge.
Oh, it's the bald judge, right?
Mr. Foreman, have you reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor. In the case of the People versus U.S. Marshals, we find the defendant not guilty of being a bad movie.
Hey!
The verdict is so rendered. We need to spread the word to every open house, White House, whorehouse, crack house, jailhouse, roadhouse, schoolhouse, slaughterhouse, deer mouse, black grouse, Minnie Mouse in this country. Go get it.
Well done.
All right, you can't talk about a 90s action movie without me, Guy Stallone from the Gabagool Gazette. Yo, Clay, get over here, man. You just won your first case. How you feel? Tell me about it.
I feel righteous, and that's it. I had the better case. I didn't. I kind of just had to go in. I had to state the facts. I had to keep it clear, and I feel like the jury did the right thing. And I'm glad that I can be readmitted to polite society.
All right, thank you. Hey, yo, Rob Maynard, come on over. Maybe we'll talk about it a little bit here. Have a little gabagool here.
I don't think Stallone's that Italian, but
hey, man, I'm the Italian stallion. I gotta punch beef and all that. Now, tell me about the case before I forget.
I'm not gonna lose a lot of sleep over this one. There was a lot of stuff I enjoyed. I'm glad that the defense didn't bring up more about Wesley Snipes, because I thought Wesley Snipes was really phenomenal in this and very strong. But, you draw the lot, you get court assigned, you got to prosecute the movie. I prosecuted it to the best of my ability, and it wasn't enough. So, what you going to do?
Yeah, all right. If you ever want to do one of my movies, maybe, I'm just saying.
Shooting fish in a barrel.
I've
never seen a Guy Stallone movie either, by the way.
I gotta be intellectually distinct.
No, he's not a character. He's not.
Is that Stallone or is that Rodney Dangerfield?
I actually did adjust my collar while I said that. Well, Guy Stallone had to leave, so let's go back to the studio for post-trial analysis.
I love
no
that
respect.
guy.
No respect. That guy.
You don't have to Greek up people's names if they're real characters. You could be Sly Stallone all you want. Like, he doesn't own the rights to himself. You're not infringing on anyone.
We should be Frankie Stallone, his brother. Love is like a light. It's on YouTube. Look it up.
But Clay, great case. Obviously, this is a
well
movie
done, sir.
You're really passionate about. I did overall enjoy this movie. Actually, I can admit now that the character is done. I mean, I love it. I'm not gonna race out to watch it again, but I watched it twice in 2 days. So yeah,
there you go. Not bad, right? Was this the first time for you guys?
I think
I saw it when it came out. Yeah,
this was the first time I've really sat down and watched it, but I've seen the commercial on TNT.
Well, that's almost the same as watching it.
Great TNT movie.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I thought of it. Like, this is a TNT direct movie, but yeah, this was really the first time I think I'd really sat down and watched it, and I did largely enjoy a lot of it. But I think I went with the best case I could against it. I think.
Fair enough.
So, but yeah, enough about that. Not guilty. So I think a fair verdict. Clay, what have you been up to lately? What has been keeping you busy?
What have I been up to? God, this is a question I ask people every single week. And then what do I have? Well, I've got my podcast. We'll just do that. I host a show called Screen Drafts, which I think anybody's listening to this would probably enjoy. It is another formatted movie argument / discussion show. I am the commissioner of the show, and if you actually know anything about how a real sports draft works. That has nothing to do with what we do. I just use that word because it's familiar. People recognize it as a word that has something to do with sports. We basically bring on two guests who we call guest GMs, and it's like they are contentious co-workers who are drafting the best of list of a given topic. They are creating not distinct lists that we then decide who has the better list. That's other very good podcasts. They have to make the single definitive best of list for the given topic. A trivia round decides what the draft order is. One person gets to make picks 7, 6, 4, and 2. The other makes 3, 5, 5, 3, and 1. Each has a veto. And go back and forth. It often gets very, very exciting. And we have on lots of just the fucking best people as guests, and it's so much fun to do. And we are, cruising up on our 3rd year come August. And to celebrate that, this is the episode I will tease. We are doing what we call a mega draft, which is a regular show. We do 7 slots. A mega draft, we do 20 movies on the list. With four guest GMs.
Wow.
And the mega draft that we are doing in August to commemorate the 3rd anniversary of the show is what I have dubbed the Planet Hollywood draft, which means the eligible films are the entire filmographies of Sylvester Stallone, Bruce Willis, and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Holy cow. Wow. How many vetoes? Still just one?
So people come in with one. If you don't use it, you can roll it over. And every guest GM on this episode, some fan favorites, Drew McWeeny, Jordan Crucchiola, Winter Mitchell, and Mark Bernardin, they've all been on before, and a few of them have rollover vetoes. So I think that there's actually going to be something like 6 or 7 vetoes.
Nice.
In play for that. So that's going to be a we'll see. We'll see if it works. It's possibly the most ambitious episode that we have yet done.
If I were going against Ryan, I just quit. No, he's got me beat. Whatever his list is, it's better than mine. I'm done.
But seriously, this is the best podcast that is being produced right now. I don't want to embarrass you, but that's just a fact.
Thanks, Ryan.
Wow.
We're more like 4th. We know
take
it.
This sticker from my heart, Ryan.
There's us. There's the Coolness Chronicles.
I don't consider podcasts that I'm on to be great, but that's okay.
I thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that. We have a lot of fun doing it, and it's really all credit goes to the guests who come on and the people who get excited about it and participate and everything. So it's a fun time. We have fun.
And there's some crossover there because Graham Skipper's been on a few of ours. He's been on a lot of yours.
Yep.
Billy Ray Bruton, regular guest, is going to be on this show pretty soon.
Oh, buckle up! Hold on, you guys are really inviting the fox into the hen house if you're letting Billy Ray come on this thing.
Yeah.
I was talking to him the other day, and he said, I can quote every single line in the movie I'm going to do. And I'm like, okay, bring it on. Let's see.
Unless you've already done it, can I guess what he's doing? This may be one you've actually done already. Is he doing Congo?
Yes,
he's doing
Congo.
Yeah. Yes, he is.
Of course he fucking is.
Yeah.
Of course he knows every line to it.
I'm still pulling for Island of Dr. Moreau sometime. But Congo is definitely going to work. And I know you've had Frank Dietz on too.
Yeah. We have. Yeah, we've
Twice.
had Frank Dietz on a couple of times. We love Frank.
Yep. We love Frank too. He did Grizzly with us and the aforementioned Omega Man.
How did the verdict go on Omega Man?
Not guilty, actually.
Good.
It got through, and Frank prosecuted it, but it got through.
He prosecuted it. Omega Man
exactly.
is a fucking fun movie. I like that.
Yeah.
You're great, Frank. We love you.
Now, Clay,
Frank is the man.
We always ask for a recommendation of a movie that you think our listeners should see. So what's a recommendation of a movie you think our listeners should check out?
Okay. I'm glad you said that. Let me pull up my Letterboxd. What have I seen recently? I mean, there's so much good. I mostly watch movies for my podcast, so I don't want to say anything that is something I discussed on my podcast. Okay, you know what? If you like mid to late 90s thrillers.
I do.
So this is staying in the theme with U.S. Marshals. The year before, Jonathan Mostow made a movie starring Kurt Russell called Breakdown.
Good movie.
Great fucking movie. It is basically upwardly mobile middle class couple played by Kurt Russell and Kathleen Quinlan from Apollo 13 are moving from Boston to Los Angeles. They are driving across the desert they're in Arizona. They're somewhere in the desert out in the middle of nowhere. They have car trouble, and because of the car trouble, they get caught up in this twisted web with these truckers and townies that are kind of out in the middle of nowhere in the desert who start fucking with them. And it is a great road thriller. It's a great man against the world movie. Kurt Russell is a really fun transformation of this movie from sort of everyday uptight banker sort of guy to storming a farmhouse with a shotgun at the end. I can say now that the verdict has already been put in, it's a much better movie than U.S. Marshals, but it's it's great. And actually, I don't know. I know that it is getting a new Blu-ray in September or something.
Yeah,
which
Paramount's
is great.
putting it back out.
Yes, I think it's that like Paramount Classics label or whatever they're calling it.
That's the one.
Hasn't had a proper home video release in forever, but if you find it online, it's HD. It looks good. Breakdown, just not a second wasted in that movie. And I know that Billy Ray is a big fan because J.T. Walsh is the villain in this movie. Great
America's favorite
actor.
scumbag,
just the best scumbag. J.T. Walsh is a really delicious villain in Breakdown. So Breakdown is my recommendation.
See, I thought Skeet Ulrich was America's favorite scumbag.
No, J.T. Walsh was declared America's favorite scumbag by, I believe, Roger Ebert.
Oh, well, if Ebert said it, it's got to be true. So for my recommendation, since we're talking late 90s Tommy Lee Jones movies here, how can we not mention one of my favorites, Volcano from 1997?
Nice.
The coast is toast, baby.
Immediately after watching U.S. Marshals, I had the urge to put this movie on, and it did not disappoint. Tommy Lee Jones plays the director of Los Angeles' Office of Emergency Management. So he's essentially Sam Gerard again, except versus a volcano. But this film gives us a little peek into his home life. He's divorced from a voice on a phone and has the single stupidest 16-year-old daughter on the face of the planet. The special effects are all right for the time. You can at least believe it's lava. But what you're really there for is the human stories, especially the character of Stan Olber, played by John Carroll Lynch, the courageous chairman of the Los Angeles MTA, who sacrifices his own life to save a wounded conductor. So in memory of the brave Stan Olber, check out Volcano. It's currently streaming on Hulu with a Starz subscription, or you can stream it on Amazon Prime. R.I.P. Stan. Dylan, what have you got for us?
Oh, thank you, Rob. I will tell you, as we all know, here's some ROJ trivia. What is my favorite actor-director team-up? That's right, Charles Bronson and J. Lee Thompson. That's right. Together, these two have plumbed the depths of hackery, and we are all the better for it. And their peak example is 10 to Midnight. Bronson plays a cop that is so not by the book he can't even read, and he's on the trail of a crazy killer and will do anything to stop the killer, even if it means doing something that ensures the killer will not be stopped. I watched it on the Cinemax streaming service, but feel free to just watch the preview on YouTube or IMDb and take a shot of whiskey every time Bronson pulls the trigger.
and then go to the hospital. Ryan, What have you got for us?
My recommendation is another action sequel, my favorite of its particular series, and that is Furious 6 from 2013. Commonly, this is referred to as Fast and Furious 6, but I am a purist and follow the opening credits, which clearly state Furious 6. It has some of the best set pieces of a franchise that mostly exists to facilitate epic set pieces, and if you can't watch it and feel exhilarated, then stay away from me because we can't be friends. Furious 6 is currently streaming on T-Vision, whatever the fuck that is.
And what relation does the film have to Grandmaster Flash?
Oh, go to hell.
Come on, he had the Furious 5. It's Furious 6.
Boo!
God damn you. Ben, what have you got? Send us on home.
I'm going obvious this week. It's U.S. Marshals plus The Fugitive.
I knew it.
Everyone
I fucking
has
told you.
Everyone has no bad things to say about it on this podcast. Just, back up, rewind, listen to everything good everyone had to say about it, and that's the review. It's Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones playing cat and mouse in Chicago. Like, what else do you want? It's fantastic.
No, the Fugitive is good. And yeah, no question there. Good recommendation. But we did predict it.
Oh, would you look at the time? We're running out of show.
No, that's... You don't get to say that part.
Maybe I should have more urgency. Okay, guys, I got to do this real quick because I really got to go. So, as we're winding down the show here, we'd like to remind our listeners that if you leave us an iTunes review and send us a screenshot of it on either Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook with the hashtag ROJ Reviews, you will be entered into an upcoming raffle for some really cool Reels of Justice swag.
That's Dylan's, that's his audition for the Micro Machines announcer.
Yeah. I mean, no one's going to buy urgency from this guy. He's got nowhere to go.
And they really, really work.
It's true.
Not only am I a member of the podcast, I'm also the owner.
I love the podcast so much. I bought the whole company.
So with that, we're all out of show for the week, but we want to thank Clay Keller for joining us. Thank you so much, Clay.
Oh God, it was a pleasure. Thank you guys for having me. Anytime.
Yeah,
I've sort of turned defending U.S. Marshals into my personal hobby horse on the internet, and I relish the opportunity to go long and get my dander up about U.S. Marshals. So thank you.
Yeah, we'd love to have
Awesome.
you back to defend or prosecute any other movie that you might have on your hobby horse, and maybe put you in the ring 1-on-1 against some of your Screen Draft buddies. And see if you can take the heat. We definitely.
That's true. Can you take down Graham Skipper?
I don't know.
I don't.
No,
think...
I've learned that you can't.
No, it is impossible to argue with Graham Skipper.
He got Jason Takes Manhattan off. I don't know how he did that.
He did. Yeah, I don't know how he did that.
He charmed the hell out of me. It's like we all woke up from the spell afterwards and we went, wait, this movie sucks. How did he do that?
Yeah, I was saying that during the case, Rob.
Yes, but we couldn't listen to you.
Yeah, I know.
But thank you so much, Clay, and everyone check out Screen Drafts if you haven't. And we hope you'll also check this show out again, too, as the Reels of Justice keep turning.
Like and subscribe.
Count it.
Smash that like button.
Please follow us on Twitter at Reels of Justice, Instagram Reels of Justice, and Facebook.com/Reels of Justice.